Paul says, "Let each man examine himself and so eat." This is the biggest problem that is brought up for the question of children. Don't the children have to examine themselves? Simple answer is no. Paul places this squarely in the context, which he mentions in the chapter before, of many different meals in the Old Testament. Those meals, Paul points out in this chapter, they had to examine themselves in those meals, and the people were unrighteous, and God punished them. This is using a warning for the Corinthians. The children were participants in those meals, and examination was still required. So it is not an exclusionary device now, because it is not a new device now. Examination has always been required. This will take some time to look at here. In 1 Corinthians 10, Paul says that one of the meals was the manna in the desert and the water from the rock. Everyone in Israel took part in that. And yet the people were left with bitter water. The people were left with punishments for complaining about their manna, and that was that they were not examining their hearts. It included everyone and required examination. The New Testament includes everyone and requires examination. He also says they sat down to eat and drink and rose up to play. That's a reference to Exodus 32. The people in that passage are eating peace offerings. The Bible explicitly tells us that the children shall be part of the peace offerings. And yet the people were punished because of gross adult sins in the peace offerings. These are contexts that Paul is using to warn the Corinthian church. Examine yourselves the way they should have examined themselves in the Old Testament. If it's not a new issue, it can't change to start excluding children. Here's the point to the examination passages. It's not to tell you, once you get to church, suddenly examine yourself and realize that you shouldn't take communion this week. If you're not good for this week, when are you going to be okay enough for the meal? It's not saying that one skip of the meal will help you to be okay by next time. The whole point is to say stop sinning. It doesn't say don't eat, it says stop sinning. They sinned, they were judged, they did not examine themselves. You are sinning, examine yourselves, and so eat. Stop sinning and eat. And it's about gross adult sins that might harm people. It is not a new requirement. It does not newly exclude children. It cannot be used against them. If we can take this one small thing out of the way, it is like, as a friend of mine said, a pebble that is holding back a tidal wave of information. The Old Testament thoroughly includes children in the feasts. They have to be there. They are in the covenant. They are baptized. They belong to God. They have faith in the womb. You have been my God from my mother's womb, the psalmist says. That's how we should treat our meals. That's how we should treat our children. There's nothing in the New Testament to exclude them. We need to examine this and see that the majority of Christian history, most of the church included children. It was done so in the Old Testament. It is done in church history. It is done in the New Testament.